explosive. We have an explosive program lined up for you, viewers and listeners. I would encourage you to get on your phone right now and to text message a friend, direct message a friend, call a friend, and tell them they need to be listening to the I Love CVille show today. Because what we're going to cover in the next hour is going to be the news the community will be talking about for the next week, if not longer. Politics is heating up, and boy, oh boy, politics is getting nasty. I talked last week. I asked, what's going on with this election cycle? Why is it so boring? Why is it so vanilla? Well, folks, it's not anymore. Here in Albemarle County, we have a Republican running for the Samuel Miller District and the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors. I will break that news for you today on the I Love CVille show. A candidate that straight up is calling out the Democratic Party for overspending, for political malpractice. That announcement will happen, and the steps of the Albemarle County office building. But we'll talk about it today on the I Love CVille show. We're going to talk on today's program, Charlottesville City Schools. They're going toe-to-toe with the University of Virginia and the Board of Visitors. An endowment of more than $14 billion. And what's in the crossfire is the Federal Executive Institute. Donald Trump and his Department of Government Efficiency have turned the Federal Executive Institute into a ghost town, a haunted house. 14 acres that is crickets, spider webs, and silence. And the public schools here in Charlottesville want that building, want that 14 acres to build an epicenter, infrastructure for preschool students, for administrative offices. The University of Virginia wants it for God knows what. They just want to play Monopoly. And right now, city schools and the University of Virginia are fighting tooth and nail over what could be the most coveted, underdeveloped real estate in the city of Charlottesville. I'm going to ask you, the viewer and listener, this question. What contiguous parcel in the city of Charlottesville has more upside than the Federal Executive Institute? The only thing that comes to mind for me is the Ix Art Park. Maybe the City Yard on West Main Street or off West Main Street. That topic on today's show. But folks, before we get to any of those chitter-chatter topics, we're going to talk a lieutenant governor's race in the Commonwealth of Virginia that has gotten downright dirty. Over the weekend, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, the lieutenant governor candidate, Republican John Reid, a Richmond area talk show host, a man who is openly gay, had to make an official statement, which he posted online, which we will air today on the I Love CVille show, explaining that he is now facing extortion attempts by maybe the kingmakers in the Republican Party. Inter-party fighting. Glenn Youngkin has asked John Reid to get off the ticket. And all of this in part because John's opponent, a gentleman from Fairfax County, Pat Harity, has dropped out of the Republican primary. Pat Harity is a known commodity in Fairfax County and in Northern Virginia. His father, Jack Harity, was a Fairfax County political aficionado, insider, kingmaker. Pat Harity is a supervisor in Fairfax County for 5 terms. And kingmakers in the Republican Party, Commonwealth-wide, wanted Pat Harity on the ticket, and the expectation was Pat was going to beat John Reid in this Republican primary. But folks, something unanticipated happened. Pat Harity dropped out of the race. He said, sayonara, peace out, so long. I'm having heart issues. I'm sick. I'm not healthy. I can't do this lieutenant governor's race. That leaves, ladies and gentlemen, John Reid as the only candidate on the Republican side for lieutenant governor. Are they even going to have a primary? Is someone else going to challenge John Reid? We don't know that. But right now, on April 28th, Reid is the only guy. And after Pat Harity drops out of the race, a guy with Fairfax County ties, the hate, the nastiness, and the blackmail started. And they went after John Reid because he's openly gay. They utilized some of the oldest tricks in the book: anonymous social media accounts, phony social media accounts, burner social media accounts, posting content to smear him, and they made the man have to offer an official statement, which we're going to play in a matter of moments. Now, what I need to do is I need to set the stage for you on why this is getting so nasty. And then we're going to play John Reid's statement on the I Love CVille show today. Here's the stage. Donald Trump, second term, 100 days in office. He is absolutely, with his Department of Government Efficiency, crushing the Northern Virginia and D.C. area economies. We've talked here on the I Love CVille show about how houses are hitting the market at ridiculous rates. Inventory is sky high. There's a glut of inventory in D.C. and Northern Virginia. Why? Because people are losing their jobs. They're getting canned. They're getting pink slipped. They're getting fired, terminated. All part of the Department of Government Efficiency and Donald Trump's second term. So as the economy is crumbling in the D.C. area and in Northern Virginia, Republicans had to figure this out in this year's race. And there's a lot up for grabs. You got a lieutenant governor, you got an attorney general, and you got the big boy in the mansion, the big lady in the mansion, okay? The actual governor's seat is up for grabs. So Republicans Commonwealth-wide had to figure this out. How do we win 3 coveted seats in the Commonwealth when Donald Trump is crushing the Northern Virginia and D.C. area economy? Aren't voters in Virginia going to link or attribute the Trump cuts and the Trump pink slips to us because we're Republicans and we have ours next to our name as well? So that was the challenge they had to figure out. So how they're going to figure that challenge out is running on the Glenn Youngkin reputation. They are running on the reputation of a man that's done very good things for Virginia's economy as a whole. And Youngkin has. I mean, that's something Youngkin can hang his hat on. The economy in Virginia has performed very well under Glenn Youngkin, especially since he started in a pandemic. So the kingmakers in the Republican Party have decided this. We want to try to get as many votes as possible in Northern Virginia for the ticket as a whole. Governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. And for us to get as many votes as possible for the ticket as a whole, we need someone with Northern Virginia ties. That was their boy, Pat Harity, the Fairfax County 5-term supervisor. But because of unexpected health concerns, he's dropped out of the race. That's left one of the 3 coveted spots, lieutenant governor, in the hands of John Reid. And kingmakers in the Republican Party don't like that. And these kingmakers have decided to smear John Reid. And they're doing that by going after his sexuality. They're doing that by going after him with some of the things he's done in his past, posting photos from some of the events he's been to in the past, including drag show events. And they're doing this to force him to drop out of the race so they can get a reset for lieutenant governor, with the hope maybe they can find a candidate that has Northern Virginia ties so they can potentially attract some of those Northern Virginia voters for the ticket across the board. This has gotten so nasty, ladies and gentlemen. This has resulted in John Reid issuing a 5-minute statement, which we're going to play now on the I Love CVille show. And I'm going to remind the viewers and listeners that John Reid, the man you're about to hear in this statement, will join us live on the I Love CVille show on Thursday. On Thursday, he's going to come on this program. His campaign reached out to us. On Thursday, he's going to come on the program. The timing is absolute bananas. Judah Wickhauer, are you ready for this? I mean, goodness gracious, politics has gotten so nasty. Here is John Reid, his official statement on what he is facing as lieutenant governor candidate, the only one right now. Sex extortion, sex pics extortion, phony and fake Instagram accounts or social media accounts, and references to his words, gay sex dating account. His words, okay? Here we go. Judah Wickhauer, play this in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm John Reid, and I'm the Republican nominee for Lieutenant Governor of the state of Virginia. I want you to send the kids out of the room because I'm mad as hell, and I want to tell you why. 2 weeks ago, I got a late night phone call from a local religious activist and 2 people I've known for several years who said that there were photos that would destroy my life and I would never work in all of America again. And that it's been my best interest to drop out of the race for Lieutenant Governor. I asked for evidence, and the next day I was shown 3 pictures of me at a drag show in downtown Richmond. As I've said over and over on the radio and in my speeches, drag is not for kids. But really, who cares what adults watch or what they do in an of-age restaurant or bar or club? That extortion and smear attempt was ridiculous, and I refused to back down, and I decided not to tell the press or the general public about it. Then Monday, my opponent dropped out after his debilitating heart issue, and suddenly the threats and public attacks began again. Demands that I drop out because supposedly Christian voters would never support me and it was inevitable that I would destroy the ticket and destroy Virginia. I told everyone who called that I did not accept that analysis and would not decline the nomination that I've worked for so many months to secure. It's been nonstop harassment and vulgar threats, calling my life an abomination, saying I'm a vile degenerate, and attacking and insulting my partner of 8 years and attacking my family. I've been attacked online and harassed in person on and off for 30 years by the radicals in my own party simply for being gay and by angry leftists who call me a traitor. What's happened today was my worst fear, a total fabricated internet lie so basic that a middle schooler could have constructed it. It's predictable, but what I didn't expect was the governor I have always supported to call and demand my resignation without even showing me the supposed evidence or offering me a chance to respond. I did not accept that, and I deeply resent it. I demanded to see the evidence, and someone created a social media account with my Instagram name, a name which I've had for years, but this fake account reposted nude pictures of other people, models and porn models. Now, I can tell you that's not my account, and anyone on the internet can open accounts with the same or similar names as other people. I used to tell my clients that they could weather almost anything as long as they didn't break the law, they didn't lie, and they weren't hypocrites. So, to that end, I'll repeat what everyone knows already. I've been openly gay for 30 plus years. I've not broken the law. I've told the truth about who I am for years, and I'll do it again now. I was on again, off again, single and dating for many years before I met my partner over 8 years ago. Am I really expected to answer every twisted, intrusive question about my previous relationships, every person I ever had sex with, every dating app I was ever on? Must I share my gay Tinder profile, every profile picture on the internet, the 78,000 photos on Facebook, every late night text? Is anyone at the Richmond State Capitol or in DC planning on doing the same? It's not my place to judge others, so I won't. But I haven't publicly performed or publicly posted anything pornographic. Have I seen porn? Yes. Have I had one-night stands? Yes. Are my exes all still in love with me? No. What more can I possibly tell you? And why am I the candidate who has to answer these questions on this topic? Let's be honest. It's because I'm openly gay and I have never bowed down to the establishment, and I will not. Last year, somebody posted a vile poster of me hundreds of times on Facebook, calling me, and this is awful, a Trump-tard Republican who likes little boys. I had to fight to get that removed. What happened today is another coordinated assassination attempt against me to force the first openly gay candidate off of a Virginia statewide ticket. It's shameful, and I won't back down, even though I know the plan is probably for the attacks to continue, and there's every effort to make me toxic. I want to thank the Republicans who called me today. and others, even some Democrats, who have defended me against this assassination attempt. I'm not a perfect person. I never said I was, but I'm not a liar, and I'm not weak, and I'm not going to be bullied. I'm sure I'll have more to say after I speak to lawyers and other officials across the state, but I appreciate you listening to me tonight, and you'll hear more.
That's John Reid's official statement from over the weekend. He's back on the campaign trail. I'm going to weave Judah Wickhauer in on a two-shot. Then I'm going to take your comments, viewers and listeners, on everything that's going on here. My phone is buzzing right now with text messages and DMs. Okay, and we have media watching this program, print media in Charlottesville, radio media in Charlottesville, TV media in Charlottesville, print media in Richmond, in Roanoke, in southwestern Virginia. I see media from Hampton Roads on the I Love CVille show right now. Judah Wickhauer, the program is far-reaching Commonwealth-wide because we have a race that got superheated right now. Okay, we saw someone from Northern Virginia where the expectation, the kingmakers in the Republican Party Commonwealth-wide thought Harity was going to get the nod in this Republican primary. And they wanted him to get the nod because of his ties to Northern Virginia and Fairfax County. You saw how Glenn Youngkin beat Terry McAuliffe last time. Youngkin beat McAuliffe because he did not get crushed in Northern Virginia like in past governor's races. He kept the margin somewhat close, and then Youngkin went elsewhere in the Commonwealth and dominated. He kept the margin close. So that's the recipe for success if you want to win governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. You cannot get annihilated in Northern Virginia, and then you have to crush it in the Republican strongholds, southwestern Virginia, some of the suburbs, some of the rural areas in the Commonwealth. When Harity pieces out of the race because of health issues, it leaves John Reid as the only guy left for lieutenant governor. Huge office here. It looks like the kingmakers in the Republican Party are trying to blackmail and extort the man out of the race so they could have a redo or reset for a new candidate for lieutenant governor. And they're doing this by going after his sexuality. He's been openly gay for a long period of time. John Reid is a guy that is a broadcast legend. He's worked for big time campaigns. His father is a politician of legendary proportions in the Commonwealth. Okay, he's worked on John Reid himself on a number of campaigns as a political insider or as a political go-to guy. This is a nasty turn of events that's happened over the course of the weekend, Judah.
Definitely, and not exactly out of character for Glenn Youngkin.
Is Glenn Youngkin doing to John Reid what Glenn Youngkin did to Razorblade Burt Ellis?
It seems almost play for play.
Look at the similarities. For the media that's watching this program, Richmond Times-Dispatch, Daily Progress, Daily Press, the radio and television that's watching this program, you should consider this for your content cycles. Look at how Glenn Youngkin, the governor, has managed the Burt Ellis fallout and compare and contrast it to what Glenn Youngkin is doing with John Reid. Mm-hmm. Glenn Youngkin asked Burt Ellis to step off the Board of Visitors.
And when he didn't?
And when he did not, a story got leaked to the Washington Post. This Washington Post story, citing unnamed sources, found video footage of Burt Ellis interacting with police officers from years ago.
Yeah.
Outside of Burt Ellis's White Spot, a restaurant on the UVA corner that he's the co-owner of. Ellis talks to the police officers with body cam footage showing this interaction. It does not have the best look, but Ellis does not use profanity. He does not touch the police officers, and he later explains on the I Love CVille show that he wanted the police officers to actually get on the beat of the UVA corner, walk up and down, and work the beat instead of sitting in their cars or staying in one spot.
And he wasn't even the one that approached them. He was standing outside of the White Spot, watching them doing nothing, sitting in squad cars, and they're the ones that came over and approached him. And how somebody knew that there was body cam footage of that in order to leak it or tell someone else to leak it is insane.
Insane. Impossible to find. How you're going to find body camera footage where there's been thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours of body camera footage. And somehow the Washington Post found a couple of minutes of body camera footage from years ago.
Yeah. What, 3-4 years ago?
I put that in perspective, viewers and listeners.
2021.
That's insider knowledge where somebody had this information on Burt Ellis sitting on a counter ready to use if Burt would not cooperate with the governor's wishes. Now, look at what's happening. The governor has asked John Reid to get out of the race because Reid doesn't have the Northern Virginia ties.
Yeah.
I don't think it's because he's openly gay.
Yeah,
I think it's because he doesn't have the Northern Virginia ties. Reid says, no way, Jose. I'm not getting out of this race. I'm experienced in this. I've worked for campaigns like George Allen. I've worked on Ronald Reagan's campaigns. My dad worked in Richmond politics. I know politics like the Pope knows holy water. I'm staying in this race. I got thick skin. I'm openly gay. I'm conservative. I'm a Republican. I can go through this. That's what John Reid's saying here. This is nothing new to me, this adversity. That's what he's saying right now.
Yeah.
And Reid's saying, I'm staying in. And after Reid tells the governor, the most powerful man in the Commonwealth, I'm staying in, next thing you know, a phony social media account is created, and they're posting porno pics on social media with John Reid's name. Next thing you know, photos of John Reid at drag events are coming out. Next thing you know, John Reid has content posted about one-night stands and his I don't know, is it Tinder profile? His Grindr profile? I don't know which profile it is, but he references dating websites. Okay? He is literally having to issue a statement over the weekend where he's saying, I watch porn. I've had one-night stands. He said in that statement, do all my exes still love me? No, of course they do not do. The most crazy stuff this man is having to offer a statement on because someone is trying to smear him. All because a 5-term supervisor from Fairfax County decided to drop out of a race.
And he makes a great point. How many?
This is insane.
How many other candidates of any, for any office are being asked these questions about their, about sexual history?
Absolutely insane what is going on here.
I agree.
This is absolutely insane. And do we have an organization chart, a flow chart that can all link this stuff back to Glenn Youngkin or whoever's in the ear of Glenn Youngkin? Burt Ellis fallout and fiasco, Board of Visitors, one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful board in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Burt Ellis didn't listen to Glenn Youngkin. Burt Ellis gets tarred and feathered, stigmatized and scarlet lettered. Gets kicked to the curb. Gets thrown out like a bag of trash. John Reid doesn't listen to Glenn Youngkin. John Reid getting tarred and feathered, scarlet lettered, stigmatized. Burt Ellis, they made him out to be a racist. They made him out to be a hothead. They made him out to be a bull in a china shop. John Reid, they're trying to make him out to be a what? What are they trying to make John Reid into?
I don't know, a sexual predator.
Sexual deviant, yeah. Sexual predator.
Whatever they can get to stick, I would think.
Absolutely bananas what is happening right now. And last week I said, what's going on with this election cycle? It's so boring. And today I start the week and I'm like, well, it's not boring anymore. And I want you to consider the Republican Party. Think about how much the Republican Party in Virginia has changed. The candidate they're running for governor is a black woman. The candidate that they're running for lieutenant governor is an openly gay man. This shows you how much the Republican Party in the Commonwealth of Virginia has changed. I think it's great as well.
Yeah.
But it's not the Republican Party of our fathers' years or our grandfathers' years. It's not the Republican Party of even 2010. The party's gone from conservative, Christian, all the word salad of the Republican Party to running a candidate that's a black woman and a lieutenant governor. Their only choice that's on the docket right now is openly gay. things just got interesting. And now we see if any of this starts sticking to Youngkin. When does the stink start sticking to a man that for 3.5 years of his term had the aura of presidential? And if anyone doesn't think Youngkin has his eyes on the White House, then you're not reading the tea leaves correctly. Because there was some chitter chatter that even this election cycle, Youngkin was going to jump in. Then Trump came back with force. Okay? And the Republican Party across the Commonwealth has some serious explaining to do. Explaining that they have to do to voters, how do we distance ourselves from Trump and his policy that is crashing the D.C. and Northern Virginia economies? Point one. Mm-hmm. Point two, they have to figure out how they can relate to Northern Virginia voters without a Northern Virginian on the ticket. Point three, Youngkin beat McAuliffe because he did not get annihilated in Northern Virginia. He kept the margin relatively close from historical voting standards. Without a Northern Virginia on the ticket, how do you do that this race? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think he also pulled some voters from the Democrats.
Well, McAuliffe lost the race. Youngkin didn't win the race. McAuliffe lost the race when McAuliffe made the bonehead mistake not once, twice, but 3 times when he said parents shouldn't be involved with their kids' public school education. That was an idiot move from Terry McAuliffe. That's why Youngkin won. It was McAuliffe who lost, not Youngkin who won. Those are facts, folks. Just like in this Trump-Kamala Harris race. Trump didn't win this race. The Democrats lost. The Democrats lost because they lied to Americans by saying Joe Biden was mentally competent. And they puppeteered a senile old man until he got in a debate with one of the best debaters of all time, Donald Trump, and he exposed the senile old man for not being mentally competent. Then they did a switcheroo in the bottom of the 9th inning, never been done in American history, and they put a talking head on the ticket in Kamala Harris, who is very good at reading a prompter, who checks a lot of boxes as a woman, as a black woman, as someone with some experience as the vice president. But when she had to really start talking about policy and getting into the meat and potatoes of being president, people realized that she wasn't very smart.
She also doubled down, saying that she wouldn't change anything about the
Trump term or the Biden term.
Yeah.
She said Joe did it the right way. I'm not going to change anything.
Right.
The Democrats lost that race. Trump didn't win it. The Democrats lost it. Just like McAuliffe lost the race. Youngkin didn't win. McAuliffe lost. And now this thing is turning into a saga of Young and the Restless proportions. Where is Cricket?
Youngkin.
Where is Victor Newman? Where is Jack?
Youngkin the Restless?
Youngkin and the Restless. God, I'm going to give you, can you go to the studio camera? I'm going to give you a hug. That was one of the most genius things you've ever seen. This is Youngkin and the Restless. Oh my God, I got to give you a chest bump for that. Can I give you a chest bump for that?
Let's see,
Are we on the studio camera?
Yeah.
Youngkin and the Restless, that is genius. Dude, that is genius branding from you. Youngkin and the Restless.
Thank you.
And Youngkin better realize this. The final 8 months of his term is what people are going to remember. It's not going to be the 3 years and change where he led Virginia out of a pandemic, the Commonwealth out of COVID. Yeah. It's the Burt Ellis saga and now this. Glenn, you better remember that. And here's the timing. You talk about timing. John Reid's on the I Love CVille show on Thursday.
Yeah.
Mark it on your calendar.
I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
This Thursday at 12:30, John Reid is on the I Love CVille show. And you know what? They may turn John Reid into a martyr. And if they turn John Reid into a martyr by trying to disparage his character through his sexuality, it may appeal to voters and make them feel sorry for him or identify with him, and he may get even more votes.
No doubt.
And if he wins, if he is voted lieutenant, now we got a long way to go. If he's voted lieutenant governor, I think the Democrats are running 6 candidates right now in their primary for lieutenant governor. But if he's voted lieutenant governor, ladies and gentlemen, can you imagine having someone in the 2 spot that has been backstabbed by all the people around him in the governor's mansion?
Except perhaps if what is it, Winsome Earls?
You don't think Winsome Sears, is in the inner circle conversations with Youngkin of who they want as lieutenant governor? You don't think Winsome Sears wants a Northern Virginian on the ticket to try to get votes for her?
Perhaps.
Come on, she's very much privy of what's going on.
Okay.
Unbelievable. Thursday on the I Love CVille Show. Giddy up and get ready. All right, topics are coming in very quickly. Comments are coming in very quickly. Neil Williamson wants to know if all your exes still love you, Judah Wickower.
Neil, of course they do.
He's the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. Judah says, absolutely they do. John Reid said, no way they do. Ty Cooper's watching the program. He says, thank you for covering this topic. It's a hot button topic. Well done covering this topic. Bill McChesney says, this is not the first time a candidate has been sexually extorted. Not the first time, not the last time. I can promise you that.
No doubt.
Kevin Yancey in Waynesboro says, so can we have an adulterous 3-time married president accused too many times to count, cheated on every wife he's had, including with a porn star? This is the world we live in. He's highlighting Trump's affinity for stepping out. Lonnie Murray is watching the program. To be fair, even with the best candidate possible, it always would have been an uphill battle for Democrats to win the last election. When the economy is sketchy, the current president is always ousted, whether it is their fault or not. Likewise, there is a similar phenomenon in the Virginia governor race. Whenever one party has control of the presidency and Congress, Virginia votes for the opposite party for governor. It will be an uphill battle for Republicans just purely on that trend alone. That's from Lonnie Murray watching the program.
Good points.
You've got Waynesboro, Crozet, Greene County, and the city of Charlottesville commenting on the show right now. Let's go to Henrico watching the show, and Holly Foster. Holly Foster's photo on screen. She's watching it in Henrico right now. I love when Holly watches the show. She says, I hope John Reid does not quit. He was a great broadcaster on WRIC for years. Just like Burt Ellis, he's getting jerked around by the governor. 100%, Holly. 100%. Henrico's in the house. Holly, I appreciate your comment. Mm-hmm. Lonnie Murray, I will push back on this, on your claim of the Democrats losing the president. I agree with Lonnie Murray's comment. I really do. But I think if the Democrats were not disingenuous with Joe Biden, trotting him out as if he was a puppet, with who were the puppeteers? Were the puppeteers Pelosi? Were the puppeteers Obama? Who was controlling the strings?
His wife.
Was it his wife? Who had the auto pen? Who was doing the auto signature? Who was doing it? Okay? If the Democrats were actually honest with Americans, they would have had a much better shot of beating Trump. Because Trump had big-time collateral damage and baggage. But they lied to Americans. And what historically, when we look back on this, historically, we need to realize as Americans that what the Democrats did with Biden was one of the most bold-faced lies Americans have ever been told. Bold-faced lie. They trotted out like it was Weekend at Bernie's. Like it was the movie Weekend at Bernie's. I'm talking Weekend at Bernie's 1, not 2, without the sunglasses. Joe Biden. And they had him on a string, almost like they were playing yo-yo with him. And Trump exposed him. And you know what? I felt terrible for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is someone's grandfather that's about to pee his pants. They made him look terrible. And they didn't think Americans could see through that.
And then they tried to, like you said, bait and switch with Kamala Harris.
The switcheroo with Kamala Harris was insulting.
And we hadn't voted for her.
And insulting the switcheroo with Kamala Harris. And then you listen to Harris speak and you're like, this person is not that smart. It was not that smart. Insulting. Comments are coming in faster than I can keep up with. Randy O'Neill, I'm not going to mention that comment on air. Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. Jeremy Wilson's watching in Tennessee, Eastern Tennessee. There's not enough money in the world to make me ever get into politics on any level of government.
Right.
That's what he says. It's unbelievable. All right, it's 1:11. We got other topics. I could spend the whole show on this topic. God, I think we have 6 different newspapers watching us right now. Oh, my gosh. Let's go to Stanton, Virginia, and John Blair. John Blair, his photo on screen. Jerry, I could not care less about a politician's private life, but there is a twist to this story that you can explore. Read this Cardinal News article. It reports that the Tumblr site at the center of the pornography allegations was created in 2014. How could that site be created 11 years ago in anticipation of a 2025 election? Here's a link to the article. You send me the article on LinkedIn. This show is streaming on 15 Facebook pages, 15 Twitter accounts, YouTube, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Fountain app, the Rumble app, LinkedIn, Instagram. I'll read that article. I'm going to take the link to that article and I'll share it in the comments section of my personal Facebook page, facebook.com/Jerry Miller now for you guys to read it. I'll share it on facebook.com/ILoveCVille.com for you to read it. And I'll put it in the Twitter thread where this show is airing upon. I will also spend some time reading it. John Blair, thank you for sharing. Let's go to Deep Throat, number 1 in the family. This story is insane. Deep Throat's got some comments. Welcome back, Deep Throat. His comments are on the UVA Charlottesville City Schools topic that's coming up. Let's see, anything on this? No. All right, we need to go to the next topic. What is the next topic on the rundown, Judah Wickhauer? Is this ICE? We got to get to the ICE topic next.
Next is ICE.
This is unbelievable. This is Ginny Who. Thank you for the retweet. Do we have the video on ICE?
Yep.
Do we realize now that Homeland Security, let's put some lower thirds on screen and get that video ready to go. Homeland Security, ICE, okay, is deputizing men and women at prolific rates. Deputizing people to manage immigration, to arrest, abduct, kidnap. It's your decision which word to make. Arrest, abduct, or kidnap. The federal government is deputizing people, men and women, to manage immigration, arrest, abduct, and kidnap, and relocation. And they're doing it despite the folks being deputized not having legitimate experience, not having training, having the ability to wear plain clothes, not show badges, and cover their face with baklavas.
There's
balaclavas.
There's questions questions about whether these guys even had badges. They may be so new that they hadn't even been issued their official badges yet.
In Albemarle County, ICE raids the courthouse of Albemarle County. Play the video without any sound. Judah's going to play the video from last week. Tell me when that's on screen. I'll talk over the video. You and I talk over the video, okay, J-Dubs?
All right.
Let us know when that video's on screen.
It's on screen.
It's on screen. Here's ICE raiding the Albemarle County courthouse. We now know that Chan Bryant, the sheriff of Albemarle County, she said that these deputized men in plain clothes showed the bailiff, showed her staff on location that they were official ICE, I don't know, what do you call them, employees, henchmen,
agents,
kidnappers, agents, okay? You choose whatever word you want to choose.
I don't think kidnappers is official.
Let us know when we're back on screen.
We've got a minute.
A minute left. However, Chan Bryant, the sheriff, said there was no advance coordination. They did not know about this until the day of. Albemarle County did not know that these ICE agents, henchmen, kidnappers were going to do this abduction, arrest, kidnapping until they showed up at the courthouse, ladies and gentlemen. Now, ICE has issued a statement, and they've issued the statement on a many-pronged attack. Are we back on screen?
Not yet.
ICE, how much time do we have? Because I want people to see what I'm about to say.
All right, we got about 15 seconds. They're walking out. I'll put us back.
Okay, we're back on?
Yeah.
ICE has issued a statement, and in this multi-pronged statement, they have attacked Albemarle County Commonwealth's attorney Jim Hingley's character, disparaged his character. They have said in this official statement that the women that were wearing the COVID mask in that video, they will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law for impeding on this ICE arrest or kidnapping. And the most telling sign of how bogus this is all becoming, ICE in the statement, they refuse to sign it with any person's name or title. It was an anonymous statement from Homeland Security sent to the media about what happened in Albemarle County's courthouse a week ago. Mm-hmm. Just like the man wearing the balaclava, the baklava, he didn't want others to see what he was doing because in his heart of hearts, he knew what he was doing was wrong. ICE, when they send statements to the media, refuse to attach a name or a title to it. But still in that statement, they disparage a man's character, a two-term Commonwealth attorney that I know well, and I know is a consistent man, a measured man, a composed man, an intelligent man, a reasonable man, a kind and patient man, a man that is good at his job, a man who said, I'm going to investigate what happened because I didn't like the look of it. It offers a perception of unsafety that could breed other violence, and I'm concerned about that because I'm the Commonwealth's attorney, and this is in the Albemarle County Courthouse that this is happening. Of course, elected official Jim Hingley should offer that statement. He represents the people. They put him into office. What Jim Hingley did with his statement was not wrong in any capacity. He did what he was supposed to do. Then Homeland Security and the federal government impugned
his name.
Impugned his character and his integrity. It is absolute bananas. And one of the most terrifying things of all of this, and why I'm even hesitant to talk about this now, is they're going to go after the two women who they said impeded on the investigation. Those women didn't impede on the investigation. Those women didn't get physical with those ICE agents. They asked, can I see your warrant or can I see your badge? And in that video, they held their hands up as if to say, I'm not doing anything to touch you in any capacity.
Right.
Yet ICE comes out and says, we're going to drop the full authority of the law on these women and prosecute them. Are we now in a world where asking questions is against the law?
Right.
Are we now in a world where asking questions in respectful fashion of deputized men and women in plain clothes with a face covered by a mask and no badge in sight and no documentation in hand is against the law? Our phones are blowing up, if you haven't realized this, viewers and listeners.
I would hope that somebody very much like those women would come and ask questions if I was being carted towards a white unmarked van, because that's terrifying, and I would certainly jump in in a similar situation if I saw it happening to someone else, because that's insane for people to just come up and say, you're coming with us, and not provide any documentation.
2 women saw a man in a courthouse get circled by 3 other men. I'm going to paint a picture for the viewers and listeners. You, viewer and listener, you, Judah Wickower, you media outlets that are watching our show right now, are at a courthouse, and you see 3 plainclothes men enter the building with weapons on their hip. One of the plainclothes men is wearing a balaclava on his face. Covered, masked his face. They swarm one man who is small in stature. They handcuff him and they start taking him to a van that's parked up front that has no branding on it. The men have no branding on their clothes. They have no badges in their hands, no documentation in their hands. They have a weapon, and one of them has his face covered. You, the bystander, go up to the people in perhaps courageous fashion and say, what are you doing here?
They were called by someone. I believe they were called when the first man was...
They were obviously part of an organization that's standing up for immigrant rights and what ICE is doing. We know that. But I'm painting a picture for the viewer and listener. Would you not ask the questions as well of the ICE unbranded, ununiformed, weapon carrying, no badge carrying, no documentation carrying, white van driving henchmen? What are you doing here? And in today's world, if you ask the question, what are you doing here? You can be prosecuted by the federal government.
It's crazy.
Holy doo-doo, ladies and gentlemen. And it happened in Charlottesville. Jim Hingley sends us his official statement on what ICE did. Jerry, here's my public statement that I'm investigating 2 ICE arrests that occurred in Albemarle County Courthouse on Tuesday. Hardly warrants the heated response of an ICE spokesperson that I'm posturing for the media and attempting to disgrace the brave officers who made the arrest. I pointed out that the officers chose to, effectuate the arrest without identifying themselves as law enforcement, thereby creating a risk to public safety because bystanders or the person being arrested might have violently resisted what on its face appeared to be an unlawful assault and abduction. It is a fact that the method chosen by ICE agents to make these arrests constituted a risk to public safety, and I stand by that statement. In Albemarle County, at least, if not at ICE, facts are facts, and I am confident my constituents appreciate my efforts to bring facts to light. I am continuing to investigate and hope to bring additional facts to light in due course. My investigation is balanced and impartial, and I have received input from the federal agencies involved in making the arrest. All the more reason, it seems to me, to conclude that the ICE spokesperson's attack on my integrity was misguided. I leave it to my constituents to decide who is posturing for the media. Jim Hingley's statement sent to us that I'm reading to you, the viewer and listener. I want to speak for the constituency, okay? And I don't often choose to speak for other people besides myself. But Mr. Hingley, you're doing things absolutely the right way. Thank you for investigating what happened at Albemarle County's courthouse. Please report your findings to the community. Yes, your voters, your constituents, yes, taxpayers would like to know. And we all see through the phoniness of a statement from ICE and the federal government that is a statement unsigned or unattributable to any person or position or title. That's called weakness, lacking courage, gutlessness. They're trying to disparage your character because they have a foundation that is meritless and weak in its argument.
Yeah.
Insane. Deep Throat says, on the ICE threat, This seems empty to me. What Virginia jury is going to find people guilty of obstruction when the law enforcement people never showed a badge or paperwork? And worth noting, nobody has been arrested or indicted. I doubt it goes anywhere. I hope to God it goes nowhere.
I hope he's right too.
I hope to God. Because if these folks are arrested, that is a travesty, and it opens a Pandora's box of all of us asking this question: are we really free in this country that prides itself on freedom and rights?
There's also a question about whether or not, I think there's the problem of them charging the woman with obstruction. How do you prove that? What was the obstruction? Was standing there asking questions obstruction? Are they just gonna manufacture whatever evidence they need to prove obstruction? That's equally terrifying.
Albert Graves watching the program. I respect Albert Graves' commentary significantly. Warrior AG, you know I respect you. You and I disagree on this topic, but we can agree to disagree. I'm going to read his commentary regardless. I have tremendous respect for Albert Graves. He knows that. I'm going to read his commentary regardless because we're the water cooler of conversation for the region. You don't have to agree with us. I like disagreement. I covet disagreement. He says this: gentlemen, it's not a raid where the officers met with the sheriff and show their credentials and warrants, and it's not kidnapping when they do their jobs and arrest an illegal immigrant, an illegal alien who has numerous assaults and who has a deportation order. Furthermore, if you impede an officer of the law in the city and county, you will be arrested for it. Why should this be any different? He says we expect our law enforcement agencies locally to control gunfire and other crimes, but yet we expect federal agencies not to do their jobs. And he says the agent wasn't wearing a mask until the incident started being recorded.
Right.
And then he says, you see, they rounded up hundreds in Colorado this weekend at an underground club. They arrested a judge in Milwaukee. I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that they're... Look, and this should be no surprise. This should be no surprise. Trump ran on this platform. Trump's platform was, I'm going to be hard on illegal immigrants in this country. Should be no surprise. The sticker shock or the ripping the Band-Aid paint off is the fact that it happened in the city of Charlottesville, a block from here, when we all thought this was going to happen on like the border of like West Texas.
I have no problem with them arresting illegals. I have absolutely no problem with it. I don't have a problem with them.
Can we turn that off?
I don't have a problem with them going to the courthouse to do it. What I do have a problem with is people who aren't wearing any type of uniform, people who will not give proof of ID or paperwork, warrant, and people who are taking and handcuffing people in our city or any city and tossing them into unmarked vans. I'm sorry, I would hope that we would all attempt to stop something like that happening, because if there's no proof that they're with ICE, then they shouldn't be taking people away. That's Gestapo tactics.
We have no problem with taking illegal immigrants from the United States and removing them from the country. We do have problems when the execution of this plan is done with unmarked uniforms, no badges in hand, no documentation in hand, and mask over your face. Because it gives the appearance of kidnapping and abduction, and it could create additional violence associated with executing your plan. It's the execution of it, folks, that we have a problem with. Mm-hmm. And if they try to drop a hammer on the innocent bystanders who ask questions of the ICE agents, I have a real big problem with that.
No doubt.
Vanessa Parkhill, she pushes back on Judah and I. She says, Jerry and Judah, isn't that the definition of obstruction, what those ladies did? isn't placing yourself in between the ICE officer and the man they are trying to apprehend, the definition of obstruction, Jerry and Judah.
But those women had no idea that those were actually ICE agents.
That's the point we're trying to make here. It would be completely different if these three men were in uniforms that said Homeland Security or Immigration Enforcement or police uniforms.
Or if one of them had taken 5 seconds to show a badge or a warrant. But instead, they acted like hobnailed booted thugs. Essentially said, get out of our way or we'll arrest you.
Waynesboro says, assuming he's illegal without proof is just as bad as arresting him. I would bet, I'll push back on that, I would bet through the court docket they knew who the man was and that he was in the country illegally.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not
I think they had documentation that they knew he was in the country illegally.
I'm sure they're not just looking at court dockets and looking for Hispanic names.
Right.
At least I hope they're not.
I'll close the topic with this. I'm looking forward to Mr. Hingley's investigation and his statement on what he finds. Mm-hmm. I would like to hear from. I want to see if the two women in that video get any kind of pro bono representation. If you're any kind of legal counsel right now and you're looking to make a name for yourself, this seems like a case that you would want to take pro bono, and it would garner your brand and your profession and your firm significant attention. I want to see what the federal government does with these two women from a prosecution standpoint, because if they really do go balls to the wall with this, then all of us should fear for our rights and our freedom. All right. 2 other topics we need to get to on the show. First, let's do the Republican announcement. If you can put that lower third on screen. I get sent the statement from Scott Smith. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the McIntyre office building, he's formally announcing his candidacy for Albemarle County Board of Supervisors Samuel Miller District seat. He's a Republican. He's doing it at the steps of the Albemarle County McIntyre building at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Scott Smith. He's running for the Samuel Miller District, a district that is much of Fifth Street extended. He's running as a Republican. He said he's going to ride his bike from the Samuel Miller District to the steps to make the announcement. He equates riding the bike as highly symbolic. And he says in what was emailed to me that the symbolism, I want to read this verbatim. This stood out to me. Smith will arrive at the office building via bike reminiscent of early American patriots who rode to warn of impending danger. And he sees the impending danger as the spend mentality of Albemarle County Democrats. He, in his statement, kind of disparages Jim Andrews here, the Samuel Miller District current supervisor. And he highlights the fact that taxes are going to continue to go up. We're turning into Fairfax County 2.0, and that leadership is making the county so unaffordable for residents that residents are going to be displaced very quickly. He says that this affordability has worsened since voters elected Jim Andrews, the Samuel Miller District representative on the Board of Supervisors 4 years ago. So now there's a Republican in the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors race in the Samuel Miller District. We're starting to get contested elections, and goodness gracious, that makes a content creator excited. We have a contested election in the Jack Jewett race. We have a contested election in the Samuel Miller District race. Does the Rio District race get a contested election? Ned Galloway currently running unopposed. Will Supervisor Galloway have any competition in his third race, in his attempt for a third term? Only time will tell. I will reach out to Scott Smith to see if he will come on the show. The last topic on the program is a topic that may be being decided right now. The University of Virginia is playing Monopoly with the Federal Executive Institute on Emmett Street. It's 14 acres that's assessed at about $20 million. In fact, I'll give you the exact assessment from the GIS. $19,571,000. We broke the news last week on the I Love CVille show that Charlottesville City Schools wanted to purchase the Federal Executive Institute. We broke that news. We broke the news on the I Love CVille show that the University of Virginia wanted to purchase the Federal Executive Institute. We said on Friday's show that legacy media should write this story, City of Charlottesville and preschools, because they want to put preschools at the Federal Executive Institute and administrative offices against or versus the University of Virginia and its $14 billion endowment, and no plan in place currently for the Federal Executive Institute. We said there's a dichotomy that's a fantastic news story that should be covered there. And lo and behold, the newspaper writes the exact story. The folks watching our show. Is the University of Virginia and its $14 billion endowment going to play Monopoly and outbid Charlottesville City Schools that have absolutely zero chance of outbidding the University of Virginia for this 14 acres? Who's going to win this battle? And if UVA does win the battle, do they lose the war of public perception and PR at a time when the University of Virginia's brand is cracked?
And do they care?
And reeking of disingenuous activity? Does UVA say, and Board of Visitors who watch the program, hear me out, think big picture. Do you say, maybe we should give the little guys this one, because if we Goliath David and crush David, then all the other Davids in the community are going to be like, God, that Goliath is a dick. And all the other Davids in the community are going to rally together to go after Goliath. It's one thing Goliath fighting David with the slingshot, one David. Imagine if Goliath had to fight 150,000 other Davids with a slingshot. No chance in hell that Goliath is going to win. You win the war by not buying this building and doing a public relations campaign around the fact that you're passing on the purchase. I'm passing on the purchase. I'm giving it to the City of Charlottesville because we're a good community steward, and we want preschoolers to have a home, and we want the administrative office to have a home, and we can see how this could be a great head start for early education, and some of these kids may even matriculate to the University of Virginia. You win the war by seeing the big picture and not stomping on David.
What would be interesting is if they did buy it and then gave the building to the city schools because they've got...
They shouldn't do that.
You don't think so?
No, because the city schools can make a purchase this through some kind of educational voucher system where they're not even going to have to pay market value for this.
Yeah.
The other piece of the pie that's really interesting is Trump is behind this. Trump is impacting Charlottesville left and right. Trump is behind this, right? Trump's a real estate guy and a capitalist. Is he going to say all these buildings that I closed, that I shuttered, that I turned into ghost towns, I want top dollar for them with whoever buys them from us? Is Trump going to be the guy behind the strings saying, get me $40 million for this, 2x the assessment? And if so, no chance in hell the city's going to be able to get that for its school system. But UVA can. Folks, you're looking at one of the most... Never in my wildest imagination did I ever think a building on the GIS that has an ownership of the United States of America. I literally want you to go to Charlottesville GIS and type in 1301 Emmett Street North. You will see the owner. I'm looking at the ownership history. The owner is the United States of America. They bought this building in 1980. They bought this dirt in the building in 1982 for $1,994,000, a former hotel. And they turned it into the Federal Executive Institute. Is Trump going to influence this decision by saying, I want top dollar for it, which will kick the city school system in the nuts and silver plate it for the $14 billion endowment? That's the Monday edition of the I Love CVille Show. If you like this program, spread the gospel. Spread the gospel. Tag someone in the friends. Share the show with somebody. Follow the page. Like the page. I don't ask you for money. I don't ask you for Patreons, for subscriptions, for donations. I ask you for nothing. The only thing I ask is share the show. Like the show. Tell somebody about the show. Judah Wickhauer and Jerry Miller, so long.